So my name is Loise Mboo. I come from an organization called the Open Institute. We're a civil society organization, and our key mandate is really to collaborate with government, citizens, and other civil society organizations in developing policy and tools that strengthen citizens' voices in governance. It's important for me to start there because a lot of times many people will always be pointing accusing fingers at government, how government has failed. But we have chosen to take a different approach and say, how can we work with government and citizens so that we can make our country better? And I was very excited just listening to the different presenters. So I want to share about the magic of collaboration with citizens and on matters of data governance. And why I want to share this is because as we navigate today's world, data has become the new oil. Data is a new currency. And if governments are not making data-driven decisions, then they are not attending to the needs of their citizens. And they will also continue to have challenges with resource mobilization, but also resource allocation. So when public institutions begin to understand and appreciate the power of collaborating with citizens, a lot of things are able to happen. And I'm just going to walk you through them. One of the ways to do that is through citizen-generated data. And you may be asking, so what is citizen-generated data, or what we call CGD? Previously, we've had national statistic organizations being the ones that are the sole custodians from a government level of collecting data, disseminating, and even publishing. But over the years, and for us as Open Institute, since 2015, we began to realize the importance of involving citizens so that they're not just data subjects, they're not just being called upon to respond to the needs of whoever the data collector is, let me use that word, but they also begin to actively participate in identifying their own needs and finding ways to collect data, map it out, and then use that data to come up with solutions for their issues. So when we are defining it, I would say CGD is data produced at the grassroots level by individuals, often through their daily activities and interactions. And this enables citizens to be able to become their own architects of their future, because then they're able to produce data that they think is important. Now, why does this matter? A couple of reasons. Number one is that citizens care about what is happening in their localities more than what is happening at the national and global level. And I want you to test this. When you're having a conversation with somebody, even in an Uber, they will talk about something that happened today on the street. The last time I was in South Africa was in October last year. And I remember being in an Uber and the taxi driver told me about an incident that had happened in the news the day before and how it directly affected them. So the question that I threw as a challenge for public institutions is the data that they are collecting. How is it improving lives? You know, sometimes we collect data, we publish it, but is it improving lives? Is it providing insights that can support policy, that can support service delivery, that can support better resource allocation? Because if it's not, then citizens won't care about that data, right? The second thing is that citizens generally want to be involved and they want to see governments and public institutions making an effort to involve them. What you see on my screen is just a screenshot of a dashboard that we have developed for perhaps what you'd call a municipality, but in my country, in Kenya, we call them counties. And in this dashboard, it's one of the many tools that we create for local government institutions, where we help them collect data and publish it. And what we were trying to do here is to show them the level of citizen engagement in their different projects and why it matters, because then also the citizens are able to be more proactive in supporting government initiatives, and being able to respond to the needs of the government. So, like I said again, if your data doesn't speak to their daily needs or show them how they can be involved, then it just becomes numbers and spreadsheets. And I think one of the speakers spoke about that. The other reason why citizen-generated data matters is because traditionally, CGD has always been overlooked when it comes to data collection methods. Like I said, we try to use NSOs and, they become the Bible and the rule book, but the potential it holds is immense. It also fosters collaboration and inclusive decision making and effectively supports the achievements of SDGs. I'll give you two quick examples. So last year, one of the processes we go through in our country is called public participation. And governments, both at national and subnational level, are required before they pass a bill or before they create a new policy to get citizens to engage. So there's something we call the annual development plan. And this is like a budget that is created at county level or municipal level. And usually the municipal governments will come out and ask citizens to participate, to give their feedback. But this annual development plan is sometimes an 100-page document printed in English with lots of jargon. So your ordinary citizen is not able to interpret it. So one, they either will not show up for the public participation. Two, they will not give their sentiments, even if they show up, because they didn't have adequate time to interpret this information and present what they feel are their needs at the local level. So one of the work that we do is building capacities for community-based organizations to be able to understand issues of data governance, and then they can cascade this at their local and at their village level. And when we did this last year, we had an interesting session on capacity building. And out of that, the community-based organizations in one county decided that they were going to go out on their own initiative and start interpreting and cascading the annual development plan to the villagers in a way that they would understand and start collecting feedback in advance before the public participation meeting. So that by the time the public participation meeting happened, citizens came with data, citizens came with information, citizens came with great insights on what it is that they wanted the government to do for them and why they wanted changes. So like I said, a lot of times we overlook the impact of citizen-generated data, yet it would give us insights on what's really happening on the ground and what are the priorities of our citizens. How can we make it work? I'll just give 4 simple ways, and this is based on our lessons that we have learned. Number one is public institutions need to be willing to collaborate. And they need to be willing to collaborate with the private sector. They need to be willing to collaborate with CSOs as well, because collaboration will fast track. There's an African saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. So if public sector are able to collaborate and open their doors, then different organizations, whether civil society or development, are happy to help them in terms of building dashboards, are happy to help them in terms of capacity building, are happy to help them in terms of collecting data. The other thing now, flipping the coin, is that CSOs, development partners, and private sector must also be willing to engage with government. And not just from a place of pointing accusing fingers, but from a place of saying, hey, we have these resources, we can provide technical capacity. I'll wrap up in a minute. And then last 2 is data collection. Ensuring that we build tools and we provide tools that are open source so that different institutions in government that may not have resources to procure certain tools can use what I'll call public digital goods that will enable them with data collection. And finally is communication and transparency, that government has to be willing to share. When they get the data, they must be willing to share. My final thoughts are this. Behind every data, there are human beings. So as we think about the data we source and the data that we publish, we always like to ask, are we telling the right stories with the data that we are publishing? What's our real objective of collecting this data? And does this data tell us about the real struggles of our citizens? So that out of it, then we can be able to collectively develop policies that work. We can be able to collectively understand where to allocate resources, and we can collectively be able to improve the level of service delivery. I think I want to stop there in the interest of time and hope that these insights will challenge us and motivate us to collaborate and to look for partners that can help us do better in terms of data governance, in terms of data collection, and in terms of using data for decision making for better service delivery. Thank you.